What is up, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm Jacob Turner. He's Andrew Jones, joining me from the Spectrum Center in Charlotte, North Carolina, after Carolina's 76-56 victory over Notre Dame. AJ, before we dive into this, as we have done, I was going to say always do, but we don't always do this, but as we have done pretty consistently over the last couple months in particular, I just want to go ahead and blast some of the milestones we're trying to hit on our social media platforms as well as this YouTube channel, trying to hit 20,000 subscribers on YouTube. Go ahead and hit subscribe and the notification bell right now. We're just over 19,100, trying to hit 40,000 on Twitter and 12,000 on Facebook. I know we're climbing pretty fast on Facebook. I haven't checked the numbers, AJ. What are we over there right now?
I looked at it. We're a couple hundred away. We really got to get the Twitter thing going. It's not really climbing like we need it to. And it's not even climbing like it typically would this time of year. Maybe everybody spend their time going over the other ones. Just follow us on Twitter today.
Yeah,
we'll hit the follow us on Twitter. We're going to give away freebies, a lot of freebies. And with the portal coming up, you want to, once we hit the goal, we're going to give the freebies away.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're going to wait until all of them are done. Like when Facebook's done, I'm going to give them away. When YouTube's done, I'm going to give them away. And you got portals. I mean, David's already pumping out portal articles for basketball.
I know, man. It's a great time to be over there. It really is. It really is a great time to be over there. And you guys can head over right now and sign up for $833 a month. Links in the description below. But AJ, let's dive into the game, man. Again, a impressive performance from North Carolina once again. It's been a theme over the last month or so when it comes to beating some of these I'll use the word stinky teams in the ACC once again. I know you're happy to hear that keyword coming up. That's been my go-to over the last month or so. But AJ, I think it's warranted. I was talking to you off camera last week about it. I was like, is this, you've been doing this for a while. Is this like maybe the worst overall ACC you've seen? And you said, oh yeah, did no hesitation. So I think it's fair to throw that stinky word out there when describing some of these ACC teams. But AJ, if Carolina shoots like they did today from three-point land, they can beat just about anybody, and they were absolutely fantastic from beyond the arc. 13 for 28, 46% from three-point land on the night. Jalen Withers was absolutely fantastic. I'm sure we'll spend some time talking about him in this one as well. Finished with 21 points, 9 boards, 7 threes, just 7 of 10 from the floor. All of those shots being three-pointers, and it also sets an UNC ACC tournament record for most three-pointers scored in a game, man. So he was the catalyst for this team in his homecoming game, as the TV broadcast reminded us 700 times over the course of that 2-hour span that this was Jay Withers' homecoming. But, man, he definitely played like it today, and Carolina from beyond the arc was absolutely lethal for most of it.
Let me ask you first, how can you hear the balls bouncing?
Not too much. I'm hearing my voice in the background every once in a while more than anything.
We like to tough it out here. Cal just came out and started shooting around. Of course, they're going to shoot around the basket in front of me. So, it's like everyone just walked out. Like as soon as the video starts, Cal shooting around.
That's 3 things for you.
Yeah, Jay Witt, I didn't talk to him after the game except when he finished interviews because he did TV. RJ and Van Allen did the podium, the dais. I don't go into the dais in postseason after games. I go straight to the locker room. So you won't hear me ask Hubert a post-game question the rest of the season because it's a completely different setup. And I want to get locker room access as much as I can the whole time it's open. So I went and talked to a bunch of players, and Steve Kirshner of the SID said, okay, we're going to have the other 3 out in the hallway when they're done. So I went out to go talk to Jay Witt, and there were 25 people around. I have a stick, like a selfie stick, whatever, that I record this. I'm like leaning over. There's some poor girl in front of me. I'm doing my ever-loving best not to elbow her in the head or anything like that, trying to get Jay Witt. So when I left the locker room, when I was done with interviews, he was out there talking to somebody and kind of gave him a fist bump and said, I didn't have any questions for you. He said, what kids? I said, well, there were 20,000 people around you. 7 3-pointers, you're going to get a lot of questions. So he was glowing, man. Right. He was glowing, and his players were glowing for him. In fact, pretty cool story RJ told is that Jay Witt had 6, and one of the student managers told RJ that Jay Witt had 6 and needed 1 more for Carolina's all-time ACC single-game record, which would be 7. And they went out on the court. RJ told Jay Witt, yeah, You need one more for the Carolina record in the ACC tournament. I said, RJ, when a pitcher has a no-hitter, you're not supposed to say anything to him. You're gonna screw him up. So I'm surprised you didn't screw him because no, first one, swish, got the record that he was just on. He was on, they've been on from the perimeter. Even the one bad game was Duke, and they still shot 33.3%, 9 for 27. Here's a stat, and I'm adding this in my head as a few of us are talking to RJ. In the last 8 games, Carolina is 87 for 190 from three-point range, which is 45.8%. So I asked RJ, I said, is this a streak, or is this who you guys are now? He said, this is who we are now. It has to be. If they're going to get to the NCAA tournament, it has to be if they're going to beat Wake tomorrow. It has to be if they're going to have any shot Friday night, any shot to advance into Saturday. And if they do get to Saturday, it's going to have to be there. Every game they play the rest of the way, they need to be scorching hot from the perimeter. And you saw after a while in this game what happens when they hit so much from the perimeter, the way it extends defenses. Then Lubin started getting stuff. And they started getting other stuff inside. Lubin hit Drake Powell with a baseline cut for a layup. So you don't want to hit a ton of or shoot a ton of threes early in games, but 15 of their first 23 shots were threes. If it's there, take it. And if you're making it, keep taking it. A little different approach from what Roy would have preferred, but they used the 3 to get everything else tonight. And quite frankly, they used the 3 to get a win, like they've done a few times. This was an impressive performance. And honestly, watching Jay win, he's not barking at opposing benches because he got the technical against Virginia. So he's creating new ways to celebrate. Although one time he looked at the Notre Dame bench, I was right behind the Notre Dame bench, and he covered his hand. You could tell he was shouting something. He's backpedaling, covered his hand. So he had a lot of fun. They had a lot of fun. The kids, I asked a bunch of guys in the locker room about Jaywood. I said, what's going through your mind when he hits his 4th, his 5th, his 6th? Elliot Cadeau's like, we see it all the time. Elliot's pretty matter of fact. Drake Powell smiled and said, he's going, man. Seth Trimble said, keep giving him the ball. If he's hot, keep feeding him. Shoot it every time until you miss a bunch. So he was 7 for 10. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to crunch his numbers during this stretch when he entered the starting lineup. But it changed the team 8 games ago. And to me, it's impressive that they came out coming off the Duke game that could have been deflating, played a team that already had its tournament legs under them, getting a win the day before, and they used the 3 to start out of the game. And then they used it in a 15-2 run later in the first half, and they used it a couple times to sort of just nudge Notre Dame back into place in the second half. RJ hit one of those threes where they weren't really going well for a while. All of a sudden, someone hits a 3, changes things a little bit, kind of sets them back on track. So you shoot. What were they again for the game? 13 for 28?
13 for 28 that was just from 3-point land.
The 4th time in the last 8 games they made at least 13 threes.
Yeah.
4th time or 5th time.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're doing that, then they got a shot to beat a lot of people. There's maybe 1 or 2 teams here they would have to do even better then. But that was impressive.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It was, AJ. And you just mentioned it a second ago. We'll hit on it. The hot start that Carolina got off to, once again, up 17-5 at one point, 22-8 at another point a little bit later on. I think 17-5 was about a little less than 5 minutes into that game. So, again, it's a hot start for North Carolina, and you talked about it. The 3's got Carolina going. I mean, who scored the first basket of the game, guys? It was Drake Powell hitting a 3 from the corner. It was a really good shot. And again, I thought, he continues to show some of that all around game and I've been very impressed with this season. So it's not a coincidence with this team. And we've seen it during, the Carolinas went 8 of the last 10 during that 6-game win streak before the Duke game. We saw it during big stretches of that of in a few games of Carolina starting these games better than they had in a lot of games previous this season. And it happened again today. And it's no coincidence that when Carolina starts games off well and when they don't get behind early, they have a lot more success. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's pretty basic 101 when it comes to sports in particular. So, yeah, I think the way Carolina started the game set the tone. And then when you just throw the fact that they're hitting as many threes as they were, and the Jalen Withers was absolutely fantastic in the first half. I mean, all that played a major, major factor. But, I mean, when you start games well, AJ, you got a better chance at winning. I don't think I'm saying anything too crazy right there.
Well, this team needed to, in one of the 5 keys that I outlined for this game, was they had to get off to a good start because they're playing a team that won the day before. And oftentimes in these tournaments, a team that plays the day before and wins and advances sometimes has an early edge because they got a little tournament dust up sprinkled on. And the Tar Heels came out and made that a non-factor right away. Drake hit that three right in front of me, and it was a calm, casual catch-and-shoot three, the kind that I see him do an hour and a half before a game when I'm out watching the guys shoot around and warm up. Most of the threes they have are catch and shoot, by the way, going back to the threes. And that's something RJ talked about. He said the big difference is that they get so many open looks now, so many more than they did before, so many catch and shoot ones. But they got quite a few of those early. They were really good defensively early. We got music going on now. They kept Marcus Burton from scoring for the first 10 minutes of the game. That was a point of emphasis. So they're hitting threes. They're getting out of the break. They didn't get fast break points, but they got a lot of secondary break points. And then keeping Marcus Burton in check, they were in control of the game. And then they had the 17-5 to start. But I thought what was even just as important, maybe a little bit more impressive, was Notre Dame cut the 22-15. And Carolina just kind of looked ahead. You know, they had nice little starts because they were shooting, but they got to back it up with some actual basketball. And then they went on a 15-2 run to open up a 20-point lead, and that was it. That was the game. The game was over before halftime. And any time Notre Dame, I wouldn't even say threatened, but just got itself a little bit of good stuff going, Carolina would do something to stop it. So the game was over at 37-17, in my opinion. It was just a matter of finishing the last 23 minutes or so. But that 15-2 run and the 17-5, both in the first half, we go back to runs. They weren't doing that kind of stuff in December and January, except they did a little bit of it against SMU and Cal, but not consistently. They're doing it every game now. They're going on runs every game. So in areas of improvement for this team, the ability to make defining runs is something that they now can add to who they are. The perimeter shooting, if RJ says it's who they are, I'm going to say they're run generators as well, because they've been doing that in the same span of time they've been hitting all these threes.
Yeah, they've been controlling games too. I know that was a big kind of keyword and theme that we talked about during that 6-game winning streak in particular. And what we tried to tell fans was, because there was always kind of a caveat with a lot of people, like, yeah, they're winning, but they're not really beating anybody good. And in some ways that still applies because of how the Duke game went last Saturday. But control again against Notre Dame. I think I tweeted it at halftime or maybe late in the second half. I can't remember, but that's the word that keeps coming to mind because you're watching this game, and despite, like you said, in the first half, Notre Dame making it 22-15 a little bit interesting, and I didn't love the way Carolina ended the first half either. I don't think Hubert Davis would have been super happy with it, but regardless, it still felt like it was a game in which Carolina was completely in control of. And when you look at how it ended with, both teams essentially clearing the end of their benches and putting their walk-ons on, it just shows how dominant Carolina was. So, yeah, you got to give them massive credit for that. And I think the test now is Wake Forest, AJ. That's the next game for North Carolina. And this is a team that is firmly in a position of survive and advance. It is a team that we've talked about a lot that needs to approach this tournament like we need to win this tournament to get in, because I don't think just beating Duke, if Carolina even gets to that point, and that is a big if when it comes to beating Duke, a massive if, I don't think that's enough. I think Carolina would have to go and win the ACC tournament just because of the sheer lack of Q1 wins that they have. But, AJ, it starts again tomorrow with Wake Forest. Another good opportunity for Carolina to get a win. Wake Forest, the 4 seed, 2:30 p.m. tip-off. I think a lot of Carolina fans are confident in the game. I'm a little bit concerned about it. I'm not going to lie to you. I think it's going to be trickier than some people expect, but I'll end it with this, AJ, before I kick it to you. Carolina comes out and shoots the ball like they did today. They won't really have too many problems with Wake Forest, and a Wake Forest team that is maybe trending downwards a little bit, definitely a little more than North Carolina is to end the season.
All right, I had to move positions because it was getting very loud in there. Both teams were warming up, and they decided to play the music at a decibel that reminded me of some pretty loud concerts I've been in. So I'm actually in the press conference at the Dais right now. And so we're usually doing an NCAA tournament, ACC tournament. So I'll do the last segment here. Yeah. First of all, the players all said get back game. Wake Forest. They said get back game, a little bit of NCAA stuff. Let me hit the NCAA stuff real fast. Because Seth said, and I asked RJ as well, they know that they have to do damage here. Damage wasn't beating Notre Dame. Damage isn't beating Notre Dame and Wake Forest. They know they have to do more, and there's a delicate balance between knowing you have to win 3 or 4 games, but also just staying focused on the game at hand right in front of you. And I think that they did a good job with that today. The fact that they're playing Wake tomorrow, a team that beat them, a game that has gnawed at them all year. They were 8 for 32 for 3. They did not play well defensively at times, and they felt like they let that one get away. It just wasn't their game. I asked Drake if he thought that was one of the worst games they played all year, and he said yes. It was just one of those nights where they didn't ever feel like them. And a couple of those threes, I think, were late, were RJ threes late. One was right before the end of the game. It really wasn't a 1-point game. It was an 11-point game. So I think that helps. I think that helps the focus to not think big and think short term. And by the way, in terms of thinking big, somebody asked RJ if he pays attention to Joe Lunardi. He said something like, Joe Lunardi said, you guys are the next team out right now, last team out after today's win. And RJ gave a diplomatic answer like RJ does. And I asked him, I said, do you even pay attention to Joe Lunardi? He's like, no, don't pay attention.
I would hope
he said he seems to scroll sometimes when watching ESPN about last 4 in. He's like, here we go again, because he's been in that situation before. But they don't pay attention to that stuff. They know what needs to be done, and they know that they're not in. But they also know right now that a team up next beat them. And the thing is, they kind of took a challenge with Notre Dame, because Marcus Burton, that was his first game back in 5 weeks when they played down in up in South Bend. And he played 23 minutes that night and scored 23 points and missed what would have been a game winner. So they knew that Notre Dame was going to bring it and ready to play. So they inserted an individual challenge for this game. They're doing the same thing now tomorrow for Wake Forest. So as much as they understand there's a big picture, as RJ said, you can't finish that picture if you don't take care of Wake Forest. You have to beat them, otherwise there's no Friday. So I think they got a good mindset. They've played pretty well. Even against Duke, I thought they played pretty well. Duke is just awesome. And Duke's going to do that to everybody. And look what they did to Illinois a few weeks ago. So I think they looked at that and said, okay, look, they got us. And we played well. We got to get better to maybe have a shot at them again, unless somehow Georgia Tech beats Duke tomorrow, which is not going to happen. So I think that this team is in a good place. I was surprised they came out as well as they did. I thought there might be a lingering Duke effect, but that's also part of my experience being around them this year and early in the year when they sometimes didn't come out well when you thought they really need to come out well. So the shift in who they are, you can see in the better starts that they've been having for a while now. You could see it in the perimeter shooting that we talked about. You could see it in the runs that we talked about. And I think now the singular game focus is the next thing. And I guess it helps knowing that you gotta win or they go home. If they don't beat Wake Forest, their season's over Thursday. And I think they know that, but they're not thinking, well, our season's going to be over. They're not playing a life and death thing. They're playing a survival thing. We got to win this to keep playing. They're not thinking about the alternative. And I think it's a good place to be in. They're in a good headspace right now.
Yeah.
And that's where if you're a Carolina fan, you got to be happy about the things I've noted from a basketball standpoint and the good headspace stuff. You couldn't ask for more given the way the season's gone. They're in really good shape, all things considered. Doesn't mean they're going to beat Wake Forest. I think they can play well and lose. But if you're looking for this team to make a run in this tournament, they got off to a good start in doing that today. It doesn't mean it's going to last, but they took care of business on day one.
Yeah. Game one out, done and in the books. And like I said earlier, it's just survive in advanced mode for Carolina right now. It's just the situation they find themselves in with their, lack of Q1 wins in the regular season. I'm going to be so glad when I don't have to talk about the net here before too long. We're getting close.
Do you have quads in spring football or quads in the portal?
I wouldn't. I hope not. Let's just put it that way.
The next 6-7 weeks of our lives are going to be portal talk. Portal this, portal that.
Net quad and portal. Yeah, quads, from the portal. Net to the portal, yeah.
We get access for football today? We ever going to talk about it? That's all we'll be talking about. So.
Yeah, you're not lying, man. It
was a good win. They had fun. Let's see what tomorrow brings. That's the beautiful thing about tournament ball is You advance and you feel great about yourself. 24 hours or 48 hours later, the whole world's coming to an end. That's one of the things that makes tournament basketball so great. So we'll see if they're happy again or if their world has come to an end.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll know about this time tomorrow. So AJ, we'll see what happens. Getting a little interference back there, but I want to ask you real quick before we leave. I always like to get a little bit of an idea of what the Wi-Fi is looking like at the ACC tournament. Audio's been clear, video's been a little bit choppy. Thank God the audio's been pretty consistent, AJ. But how would you rate the ACC tournament Wi-Fi experience so far?
For a while, it sucked. I had to text you guys that I having Wi-Fi issues, and they do have Ethernet hookups, so I got to go get an Ethernet hookup thing later today and bring it tomorrow. That'll make life a little bit easier. But you would think the Wi-Fi would be. The second half, I actually didn't have too much trouble. I was able to upload reels during the game and warm-ups during the game, and they got there and didn't burn my phone out. So I'm not going to complain. People hate when media complains. I got my job done. That's all that matters. Well, I got a lot of writing to do now, but in the press room, it's good. It's a lot better than it's been before in the press room. I'll say that.
Hey, well, good to hear right there. Good to hear right there. I always have to check in because I've had my own experiences with the ACC tournament Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi in general in that building. NCAA tournament's not great either. It's the Spectrum Center. You think the Wi-Fi would always be fantastic, but
it is bad here in general. Now, the ACC tournament, when it's at Greensboro Coliseum, is when basically there is no Wi-Fi. And we use pigeon carriers.
It could be worse.
Communicate.
All right, man. Well, let's go ahead and get that out of here before we sit here and talk about Wi-Fi for the next 20 minutes. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Another edition of our Three Things Postgame podcast. Well, obviously, keep it locked to charloillustrated.com for all your postgame coverage from today's win, and obviously tomorrow as well, as Carolina prepares to take on Wake Forest in the ACC tournament quarterfinals, 2:30 p.m. tip in Charlotte. Make sure you like, make sure you share, subscribe, notification bell too, and we will see y'all next time. Thanks.
Thank you.